That's because the audio was down.
That's why. So all that talking I had screaming, nothing happened.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So we had silence?
Yep.
Yes, you didn't have the microphones up.
So you didn't hear Dan reprimanding me about that magazine that I wanted to show?
No, it's anybody. It's
okay.
not that magazine. It's anybody,
No free rides.
No free rides.
I know.
We do not do test drive and then you get...
All
no.
right.
I mean, you can, but...
Yeah,
but
I can.
which is what you did.
Right.
No, on the weed show, you did the test drive thing. But I don't believe in test drives.
My weed show called In the Weeds with Jimmy Young that's available in the CLNS Media Network.
Yes. No, but you still gave them a ride before... before they signed on.
Not
and someone hasn't signed on.
Yeah, I cannot deny that happened.
I'm
Correct.
just like, I'm anti-freebie.
Because they said yes, and then they backed out.
And they backed out,
right,
yeah.
and I won't name who they are.
But I would...
but you know who you are.
Yeah. If Mac... Yeah.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, we're
That's
ready.
the new me.
I'm ready.
Pay to play.
I'm ready.
We got time still.
How much time?
Okay,
30
so
seconds?
I am...
I have... by the way, what's the third quarter? The Facebook thing or something? Is that the fourth quarter?
Lots of people claim it. Local news, third quarter. Local news is dead, but not. You're reading the kneeling protest thing, right?
Yeah, I get it.
And then you have the fourth quarter stuff?
Yeah, and I made one adjustment because they're buzzing about something in the media that was not on your list.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, and I think you'll get it as soon as
and
we
then
start.
we find the interesting... okay, this is... Yeah. I might mess up today.
No.
I'm jumping all around. There's this one that I did to that. There's this.
You're a pro.
I don't know.
Will be a good test.
This is gonna.
Are you going to GBH today?
Yes, I am.
Lovely.
That's why I'm dressed up.
Oh, I see.
And so that's
Me?
that.
I am not dressed up. I am just dressed, but I am missing one particular garment today.
You're missing the underwear?
Yeah. How did you? Now, Dan, we have to clarify.
Clarify. Mac welded underwear.
Yes,
to
I am
me,
not wearing my Mac Weldons today, unfortunately. But I'll be happy to talk about the positive. In fact, now that they've gone through the wash a few times,
we can talk about that.
Yes.
Okay. So you have been watching Behind the Media, getting ready for Behind the Media.
Before Behind the Media.
Sorry, okay.
Before Behind
TM. Before Behind the Media.
Before Behind the Media.
Before Behind the Media.
Before Behind the Media.
Before Behind the Media. You've been watching that. Part of it did not have audio, and the part of it did.
Yeah.
And
we might edit out the part without the audio, though.
Exactly. But anyway, we're ready to go, and so hit it, Steve.
You're tuned in to Behind the Media. Dan Lothian and Jimmy Young bring 70 years of award-winning broadcast experience to the table. From newsrooms across the country, behind anchor desks and in the field, they've seen and covered it all. And now they are here to take you behind the media.
You're going to have to embrace technology. If you're an educator...
I'm embracing it.
I want you to use the phone to help teach these kids.
You don't need to do that. I was covering the president in China, and we did a behind-the-scenes video. This is a gong, or...
No, not a gong. A bong.
A bong.
With a B.
That's right. Did I say
the
gong?
Gong is a
That's
gong
right.
show.
I said gong.
Gong
bong.
makes noise.
Bong. Why is it, Jimmy? Why?
Because sex sells, Dan!
True, but it's only part of the answer. It is... You have to be more creative now to be able to tell a story, and sometimes it's just a before and after picture and saying, which one do you want to be? So, sad news as we begin this podcast. 61-year-old chef and travel media star Anthony Bourdain dead by an apparent suicide. Also, mega designer Kate Spade died this week of an apparent suicide. Are there serious consequences when we report these kinds of stories? We'll talk about this very serious issue on this podcast.
Yes, and we'll also be giving Fox News the oops of the week for using a image of the Eagles kneeling when they were kind of praying, not protesting. Oops.
Oops, that's a big oops.
Big oops.
Lots of people have been claiming that local news is dead, but one station in Pennsylvania is working to turn back the hands of time by embedding reporters.
And bites behind the media. Quick hits of some of the other stories that everyone's kind of buzzing about, like who leaked the Julian Edelman PED test results? Was it Reddit? Was it Twitter? Was it Snapchat? Was it Instagram? Or was it BB?
Oh, wow. That's intriguing.
I thought that'd be a good tease.
That is a very good tease. Kick back, take off your shoes, and grab a glass of tea. We're about to make you listen, laugh, learn, and think. This is the best episode ever of Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
At least this week. I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media so you don't have to go around scrounging for it. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter and listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Mack Weldon. It's a premium men's essentials brand. For 20% off your first order, visit MackWeldon.com and enter promo code CLNS at checkout. We're also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com. So, a serious story as we begin this podcast. Anthony, breaking news, if you will. 61-year-old Anthony Bourdain, dead of an apparent suicide.
The second major suicide of a public figure this week.
It is shocking. We often think that people end up committing suicide because they're in financial straits or something that they can't get help for or can't afford to get the help, and then they think of no other way for them to get out of this except by taking their lives. And here are two people, Kate Spade, who, Jimmy, you didn't know much about her.
What a shock. Anything having to do with the fashion world and designer. I'm so unhip and just not fashionable. I do what I'm told when it comes to designer, what to wear, what not to wear, colors that
But
don't
now
match.
you know. And
I know.
I know that.
Although I will never understand the female's obsession
with purses
bags.
and bags and so forth. But
I'm sorry.
and I don't quite understand it, but it's a name that's been out there and very, very popular. And then now, this shocking news. And, I have to admit on this podcast that I came from the world where I knew everything before everybody else did. I was always plugged into, the news reports, reading every newspaper. And now I'm a little lazy when it comes to that. And so late morning, you walk into my office and you say, "Did you hear?" And I thought you were, I don't know why you would joke about this, but I thought you were kidding or you got fake news somewhere.
Yeah.
With
No,
Anthony
it wasn't
Bourdain.
fake. No, it wasn't. And because I'm on, well, it's interesting you say that, Dan, because I'm going to analyze the statement you just made. When you were actively full-time a national member of the media,
right,
you actually used newspapers as a form of resource.
I did. Well, I mean, not just everything. I was plugged into everything.
But back then, you didn't have as many plugs. My point, you know what I'm saying? Point being, well, no, I think this is a great example of how you find out about news.
Right.
And you didn't have Twitter. You didn't have Instagram. You didn't have Snapchat. You didn't have Facebook.
Somebody had to walk into your office and tell you.
You had the internet, though.
You had the internet. You had the water cooler.
You had the water cooler.
And so this was an example of the water cooler moment. I found out about this around the water cooler.
Right.
But it brings up an interesting, we've had a conversation way back. We had a conversation about suicide and how it should be reported, how it never in the past used to be reported. Period.
Back in the day when I first started in 1977 and 1981, okay, and that was kind of the beginning of the career. I was actually told by news directors, we don't report on suicides.
Right. And that was one of the no-nos. And in fact, I was listening to NPR yesterday, and they had a discussion about the Kate Spade death, and they were talking about how we didn't used to report on these kinds there were certain things that you just didn't report on, and that was one of them. And things have changed, and I think partly because whether or not traditional sources report on suicides, the way technology now and the way people consume news, information gets out there. And so it's as if you're not, especially a celebrity, if you were to stay away from, talking about the death of a celebrity, then everyone would say, why aren't you reporting this? Why aren't you discussing it? Because we know all about it. It's out there.
Right. And I also think we recognize the seriousness of mental illness.
Oh, it
and
is.
by the way, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go to a doctor and get 2 aspirin and it be cured. It doesn't work like that.
No,
with
it's
the
an
brain.
ongoing, long
battle.
battle.
And it can affect all of us. Dan, I'm not afraid to admit that I see a regular mental health practitioner, well, actually 2 of them. Oh, wait, 3 of them.
Oh, no.
So to kind of explain some things.
Right.
Grant, I mean, there are all sorts of thoughts that go through my head. And I've talked to you before, and the first time we talked about suicide, I told you the worst day of my life was watching people that I loved and care about and continue to have to go through the death of a family member by their own hand.
Right.
And it just, to see that scene alone helps me get through depressive episodes, helps me let those thoughts go in and out of my head,
Right.
And self-check myself,
Right.
if you will.
Because
Okay.
you've been there. You've seen the impact of something like
Yes.
this. And I think
on the people I care about.
Right. And I think, in this particular case with Anthony Bourdain, you look at it from the outside. I mean, clearly he has talked a lot about various different struggles that he has had. But when you look at him from afar, you think of nothing but success. I mean, here's someone who has built a mega empire. If I know CNN ended up when I was there, he was coming along. His show was doing well, but it was clearly becoming the anchor of something that CNN wanted to establish, and that's this kind of reality programming where people would tune in to watch because it was so engaging. And he found a way of asking basic questions that would get at really interesting answers, and also took you to places through food. I always,
Right.
one of the things that I did after I left CNN is that I wanted to do a religion show. And the way that I was pitching it was basically what Anthony Bourdain has done for food, I want to do for religion. And that is use religion as a way to tell you about certain areas of the world. And he did that well with food. It wasn't, I'm not a foodie. You know that.
Right.
But
No.
but I would always tune in. I eat whatever's coming by.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Right. But he had a way of, using food as the door that would open you to all of these wonderful experiences and wherever he was traveling. And he would try anything from, a live cricket or whatever to, it's just something gross and interesting. But you could talk about culture and people and get to really feel that region of the world that he was traveling in. And this is a huge loss. It's a huge loss for everyone.
For
but
humanity,
and
and
certainly
certainly his family and all this. And one of the things that I love about this discussion that we have once a week, we call Behind the Media, is my ability to actually learn stuff that I had never really heard about before. And in fact, a word that I learned.
And I learned, by the way, in the 10%. Or has it gone up to 20% for me? Like you learn things.
Oh, yeah, we're
saying,
talking about sports versus news.
Right. So I'm saying we learn a lot because
Yes,
we come
share.
from different sides
Correct.
of the journalism
Well,
scale.
The journalism world, and
Right,
exactly right.
But you
I mean,
learned something.
I
You
learned
said-
suicide contagion.
Right.
I said
Yeah.
it right?
Yes, you did.
I was not sure. But basically, that is a term that mental health experts have talked about, how it's almost like a copycat.
A copycat, yeah.
Right, and they want the media to learn how to report on suicide.
And that's a big criticism, I guess, that whenever, especially high-profile cases emerge, it becomes just kind of like a breaking news thing, and they just want to, report all the sordid details. Where did it? How did it happen?
Well, look
How
at
did it
your
happen?
reaction to Anthony
know.
Bourdain when I walked into your office.
Yeah.
You were, physically, you were shocked.
I
Like,
was,
what?
and that was
What?
real. Yeah.
Right, and that was
Right.
you
And
were-
then you want to look for the details. And I know in the Kate Spade case, and then there was some criticism of it because it wasn't just that, her death was being reported, but they were reporting
struggles, too.
her struggles, certainly, but also how she did it.
Yep.
A doorknob and using a scarf of some sort to hang herself.
Right.
And it's always as if, it is the public's feeding that voyeurism in a way. And there's been some criticism of that.
Curiosity.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's the
For
why-
some,
the
it's
first
curiosity.
questions-
Others, I think it's voyeur. They want to be able to, tell me everything. I want to look
why-
through the window.
The why and the how are the first two. Why did that person do that? They were so successful. But what they don't know, Robin Williams, who's one of my
There's a lot of pain behind the scenes.
That's right. That you can't tell the human being. These are actors, people in the public eye, and there's their public life.
Right.
And then there's their private demons. And and we all have these demons. We're all human. We are not perfect beings.
And I've always said, and we've talked about this before, I believe that some of the smartest, best people at whatever they do battle a lot more private demons, because what gave them the ability to really focus and be so well at that other thing is they're lacking some other things or struggling with some other things, and they channel all of their brain power into that one thing, and that's why they become so good at what they do. And that's not a scientific thing, but I've just found that a lot of people, some of the people who are at the top of their game, and you find out, wow, they're struggling with getting up out of bed in the morning because they don't think they're good enough, you know?
Absolutely. Just a couple of things, and coming to the factoids, because I did some research on this, the suicide contagion. Okay? Basically, this is a Kelly McBride, the vice president at the Poynter Institute and a mental health expert. When we cover suicide irresponsibly, we actually make the problem worse because there are things in suicide stories that are scientifically proven to create this contagion effect. We have a moral obligation to find an alternative way to tell the story. So again, you know, just because you're a member of the media, and we've seen a lot over our 40-odd years, 70, 80 between us, we have to learn how to do this.
Right.
And I think they are trying to do that. But here's the biggest challenge in our modern era, and we have talked about this all the time. It's one thing to be a traditional media journalist and try to do it the right way, get the knowledge, listen to the mental health experts on how to report it. But because of social media, because of the walking around with your phone / camera, people want to see the body being wheeled out. They want to see where this person did it. They're curious how they do it.
And they go looking for that sometimes.
They go looking for that.
Right.
And that is not what these experts want to have happen.
Right.
But I mean, again,
but it happens every
it's the
time.
wild west now. You can't control the public. You can educate the public. You can create dialogue amongst the public. We can talk about this and have people hopefully listen to it and listen and download and learn something. But it is the irresponsible reporting on celebrity suicides that can really be worsened by this kind of a media environment. And that is really what these people have got to try and overcome. And that is not it. That is not going to be an easy thing.
And then the thing about it is that when these suicides happen, the headlines follow, and they're always sensational headlines. And you have sort of the more tabloid kinds of publications that really play that up, especially when it comes to a celebrity. Others are more traditional and straight, I think, in the way that they do present those headlines. But one of the things, and this is a USA Today article that I was pulling from, it says that the headlines are written to break through social media algorithms, and thousands of websites compete for readers' attention. And so they create these kind of buzzwords so that it makes it very searchable, so that people will find them. And so they're explaining that part of the problem is, as opposed to just saying, hey, someone died, suicide is suspected, they throw in all these other more tantalizing words so that people will find it. Because as you know, and we've talked about a lot on this show, it's all about clicks and getting attention. And so, the question is, what do you do? How do you report on this? You can't ignore it. As you pointed out,
Correct.
Everyone's talking about it out there online. Are there some things that we should be thinking about when reporting on suicides, and in particular celebrities, because those are the ones that their deaths get the most attention.
Right, because we are a celebrity focused culture. We are just fascinated by it, and we build people up so that we can watch them break down, and then we give them a second chance so we can see them get up off the canvas and again come back and again. But here is
but before you go to the solutions part, what we should be reporting on.
Yes.
I did one, and you talked about this. You were listening to a radio show, and they were talking about this is becoming a major problem. We're
30%.
Yeah, so I'll read it here. Suicide is a growing problem in the United States. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention published a survey just this week showing suicide rates increased by 25% across the United States over nearly 2 decades ended in 2016. 25 states experienced a rise in suicides by more than 30%. So what's at the heart of this, Jimmy? Is it just, the
pressures of life?
The pressures of life. That's one.
The inability to express yourself in a comfortable environment. Needless to say, social media is not a comfortable environment. Right. It's out there with the public.
And is technology also to blame here?
Huge
because
factor.
Now kids, not just reading about it, but when kids are discussing on an ongoing basis on social media, I want to kill myself, I want to do that, whatever. These dark thoughts are no longer just your own dark thoughts or your few friends around you, right. But you can find dark thoughts everywhere, anytime, 24/7.
Yes,
and could that be part of it?
Well, interesting. In 1990, there was a workshop that included sociologists, public health officials, researchers, psychiatrists, psychologists, news media professionals, and they all talked about this. This was in 1990.
Wow.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, these were their conclusions. Rather than get into it, but I already quoted one of them. But specifically, they think that the news media should be covering stories about the help that is available in your communities when you have these dark thoughts.
And that's true. It should be.
No question about it. Because, as you know, the news media, especially in the 90s, I'll admit it because I made a career switch, if you will, loved to chase ambulances. They loved the sensationalized,
the gory stuff,
the gory stuff,
sells.
The shocking stuff.
That sells.
When I come into Anthony Bourdain, he passed away, and you're like,
I was shocked.
What?
Yeah,
right. Okay,
and I instantly Googled to find out. Actually, I just opened up the Google, and then the page, it was right
thrilled.
there. Yeah.
Right. Well, it was obviously the number one trending thing. So,
right.
what are the availabilities in a community to talk to people who might be of high risk? Parents need to talk to their children about this.
Right.
Let the kid understand that they can come to their one, or if they're lucky, two people that are unconditionally attached to them. They care about them no matter what.
And we need to do a better job of urging parents to listen and to pay closer attention, because I think a lot of times they
don't know what to do.
They don't know what to do, number one, or they aren't they're not paying attention to it. Right. And so, these stories need to reinforce what help is available and what signs need to be looked for, which is what kind of is at the heart of this. I mean, when it comes to solution reporting around suicides, it's about providing help rather than just talking about the sensational details.
Correct. So some warning signs, and this comes right off the whole thing about the U.S. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which, by the way, 1-800-273-TALK. And really and truly, that's what we do here every week, Dan, is we sit down and we talk about the things in the media every week.
Right.
And creating the dialogue is the first step to overcoming addiction. It's overcome prejudice, but you need to create the communication between people. All right. So here's some warning signs just for information.
Because we want to do responsible reporting, if you will, or a responsible conversation about this issue, not just the breaking news.
Exactly right. And so I talked about TALK, and of course it's in the 1-800-273 TALK TALK or 8255. Sure enough, the number one warning sign is actually talking about wanting to die or feeling hopeless, lacking purpose, being in pain, or being a burden to others. Increasing the use of alcohol and or drugs, which, by the way, moderation is the key on all those.
Right.
Sleeping too little or too much. And withdrawing or exhibiting anxiety, displaying rage, recklessness, or extreme mood swings. Those are warning signs. If you know someone who might be exhibiting any of those, find a health professional to talk to about them, alert them to it, and they may give you some tools on how to approach that person. Because, let's face it, this is not something, we've now recognized there's a problem. We've started to talk about it. We're going to experts to get some guidance about it. And as former media people, we've got to learn now how to report on these things. Because they are becoming too too current too many times.
And while there is that contagion aspect of it, I'm hoping that now that we've had, two major names, huge celebrities who have died, of apparent suicides, perhaps the conversation will be as we have just, been having here, right? And less about the details. So, that information has come out already about Kate Spade, obviously breaking news about Anthony Bourdain, but hopefully there will be this conversation that becomes the next layer of coverage. And again, not just among people in general, but among members of the media, the newspapers and the online magazines and the radio shows and so forth. There really has to be a conversation about this issue beyond the details.
Yes, and I'm going to say another thing there. This might be a Reverend Jimmy moment.
Go ahead, Reverend. If ever we needed a Reverend Jimmy moment,
right,
this would be it.
If you are an individual and you feel like you have these any thoughts, every individual has the right to seek out a mental health professional. Mm-hmm. There should not be a stigma anymore about you wanting to search out someone who can help you. These mental health professionals, when you go into their office, they are only concerned about you,
and
your
making
mental
you better.
health, making you better. Okay, that means that's their concern. It's all about you. And for someone who, I kid a lot about myself. I laugh at myself. I'm comfortable with my faults and my strengths.
Right.
And so I enjoy the time that I can go in for that hour and just say, look, this is what's going through my mind over the last month or week. And here are the pressures that I'm under. And how do I deal with this?
Right.
That should be, everyone should have someone that they can go to, not a friend. Go to a mental health professional.
I mean, friends are good to get you there
but
and to keep
peer
you there.
pressure can be very powerful at any level of your life. Okay,
right.
Trying to keep up with the Joneses, the pressures of the financial pressures, the moral pressures that we all
Whatever
have to face.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I'm wondering, though, Jimmy, is it more difficult for someone, like a Kate Spade or Anthony Bourdain? And again, we don't know what kind of help they may or may not have been getting in their private lives. But I'm wondering if celebrities and those who are out there in front of the cameras and in the press all the time, if it's a bit more difficult for them because there is this fear that, if word gets out that they are struggling with something like mental illness, then the big jobs go away, or their audience will react in a certain way, or they become vulnerable because they are saying, I am not that perfect person that you are watching on television or you're buying the designer stuff from. I'm not perfect. I'm flawed.
Human.
I'm a human. And there is vulnerability in admitting that you're human. And maybe that's especially difficult for some of these high-profile folks that we're talking about.
Though I think, yes, I agree 100% on that. And reaching out and asking for help is a big step. And, I'm a sports fan.
Yes, you are.
And football players in particular have had a tendency to take their own lives. Unfortunately, we lost another great one this week, 61-year-old Dwight Clark from the San Francisco 49ers, not to suicide.
Right.
It was ALS.
Although we have seen suicide.
Well,
it's a little different because it's tied to brain injury, right?
It's actually tied to their profession. Let's cut to the chase.
Exactly. Yep,
okay?
Yep.
Football can cause brain injury. And it can, that obviously, once you're anything having to do with your brain, doesn't it make sense to go to see a neurologist or a mental health professional to help you deal with this? And more football players, the toughest people I've ever met in my life, by the way, yes, they're starting to recognize that I too may have this because of my profession. And now I need to go seek out and get help.
Right. Do you still have that number, Jimmy? The
I do.
800
I'll give it
number?
out again.
Yeah, I think for those of you listening, I mean, this doesn't just impact big celebrities. It impacts everyone. And one of the things we talked about prior to the show is that it's amazing that no matter how wealthy you are or how poor you are, you might be living under a bridge. The one thing you have in common is this inner pain in your heart, your soul, in your head. And no amount of money will change that. The only thing that money will do is if you have people around you who can say, we're going to take control and we're going to take your money and we're going to get the best help for you. That's the only difference. But the pain itself impacts everyone, wherever you are, whatever social status you have in life.
Right, or ethnic background, or religious background, whatever it is. So if you know anyone who is struggling with this, the U.S. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-TALK or 1-800-273-8255. And yes, you could call anytime, day or night, or even chat online. For those of you out there who may have it may be easier for you to actually tell your feelings through chat, through a keyboard or a, texting thingamabob.
Texting
whatever, rather than actually articulating and communicating your innermost feelings and thoughts about what's going through your mind.
Right. Now, we went a little longer on this podcast, but we thought this was an important issue that we really wanted to sort of break down. Usually we're goofing on each other quite a bit, but this is a serious matter. And certainly a blow for me as having worked at CNN.
Did you know him at all?
I've met him before.
Yeah.
We weren't buddies or anything like that, but I've met him before. And it is especially anytime anyone, loses their life, it's a tragic moment. But this is still very fresh for me. And you saw the shock when you told me about it. And so it was important for us to have this conversation. So again, as Jimmy gave you the number there, do get help because we don't want these numbers, these climbing numbers.
We need to reverse the numbers.
Yeah,
they're increasing, and now we've recognized that there's an issue. The only thing that we can do to actually get those numbers to decrease is to continue the conversation.
Exactly. Let us know what you think about this conversation. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag #BehindTheMedia to engage with us on Twitter. Have any questions or comments? Let us know at info@littlepartmedia.com. That's info@littlepartmedia.com.
Sorry, I don't have my cheat sheet today.
I know. We had computer problems. But anyway, that's on to our second quarter. The kneeling protests that wasn't. Welcome to this episode of Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media so you don't have to go searching for it. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter. And listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Mack Weldon. It's a premium men's essentials brand that Jimmy is not wearing today. For 20% off your first order.
Jimmy told you that I'm not wearing today. Can we say that,
That's
please?
right. Jimmy told me. I don't know that from firsthand experience.
Thank you. I appreciate
Jimmy
that.
told me that the wonderful, wonderful
Steve
soft.
is cracking up in the
yes. Undergarments are not being worn today.
That's right.
They're taking a break. But anyway, you can visit MackWeldon.com and enter promo code CLNS at checkout. By the way, Jimmy, you watched them, and how are they?
Much improved, much softer. We talked about the fit. That I'm at that 34 and a half.
Well, you didn't
inch,
have to give that out.
Well, it's 34 and a half inch waistline.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So again, that's why, in between sizes kind of a thing. So I think now that they've gone through the wash a little bit, they've gotten a little more snug.
Okay. Well,
and I have 3 of them, so I wear them in a rotation.
Oh, rotation.
I wear them in a rotation
Undergarment rotation.
Yes.
We can tell you more about that. We're also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com. So there was this photo of the Eagles players kneeling.
The Philadelphia Eagles, who are the defending Super Bowl champs, who were on their
they
way
were
to the
protesting.
White House this week, and something went
Something
awry.
happened on the way. Now, they were clearly protesting, right, Jimmy? I mean, that's what Fox News told me.
Well, because, the NFL players, led by Colin Kaepernick, who originally just sat on the bench during the national anthem and then took knees and then got completely blacklisted by the National Football League, and I really hope he wins his lawsuit. Okay, sorry, that's how I feel.
Yeah, don't hold back.
Fox News
puts a photo up there.
Well, and it was in reaction, not necessarily to the national anthem story.
No.
It was the story about the Eagles and meeting President at the White House.
Right.
I almost said his name.
Because he disinvited them, but really he didn't, because they disinvited themselves, and it wasn't a large group that was going, so therefore he pulled the
Whenever,
plug.
and let's
And this is a
and I will
this happens a
balance
lot.
this story.
Okay.
Whenever a sports team is invited to the White House,
Yeah.
it is considered an honor.
I've been there for many of these, whether it's the MLB, whether it's the
think it was
NFL,
Richard Nixon
whether it's the
who may have
NBA. No, I think it was
Kennedy?
it wasRonald Reagan, I believe.
Yeah,
I
see,
believe it was
I-
Ronald Reagan, but
I-
I'm not certain.
Nixon was
Somebody
involved
let us
there.
know, by the way.
Yeah, who was the
send us a
first?
comment.
What was the first sports team to be recognized?
That's right.
by
Stephen,
the
maybe you can look
president?
it up and let us
Yeah.
know.
Article on it.
Yeah,
I think,
I'm sure there
I
is.
think it's Ronald Reagan. But anyway, we digress.
And we digress.
But it
It's
was
an
a
honor to
conversa- it was
go,
a conversation,
and yet
right.
it's always controversial. I
always
remember when the Bruins, Boston Bruins, were invited to the White House, and Tim Thomas, the goalkeeper of the Bruins, the Stanley Cup champion Bruins, I think it was 2010, declined to go.
Okay.
Now,
And Tom Brady declined to go.
well, Tom Brady had other things on his
Right,
schedule.
exactly. But this happens quite a bit.
Yes, it does.
But anyway, usually what happens.
And by the
at
way,
least-
which time? I know that.
Yeah, which
I know
time?
that
I
he's
don't know
been there.
which time. He's
you know,
been
there's
there
been
before.
5 Super Bowls for
Exactly.
the Patriots. But anyway,
But anyway, so it
the
was a
Eagles. The
conversation of
Eagles
that.
were supposed to go. And Fox was doing the story on how it had blown up, and they used an image of the Eagles players kneeling in prayer before a game, which
Right.
is obviously, I think, respected.
It was an expression of their faith, and
Right.
they do that. They pray before they have groups.
And they turned that image into, see these NFL players kneeling for the national anthem?
They're actually protesting.
They're actually not protesting. They're
Right.
actually
Well,
praying.
initially they said they were protesting.
protesting, right.
And then they had to come back and apologize
Yeah,
and
it was
say,
a
"Oops,
wrong image."
Wrong image." And I think what's
and
interesting, one
that
of the
they
players
never, and the Eagles had never kneeled during that
they
whole
had-
controversy.
Exactly. And the thing that was, I found the one quote, it was Howie Long's son, Chris
Long.
Wow, are you surprised?
Very
I knew
good.
his name.
Yes,
Woo-hoo!
you know,
That's
you
what
knew
research
and
will
you
do
knew the
for you.
lineage.
Yes.
You did. That was outstanding.
Once in a while, I make that
And
connection.
Now, where's Howie Long from?
He's from Boston.
Very
Yes.
good, John. Yes, sir. Yes,
No, I
indeed.
didn't know that because he
He's
was
a
on
local
one of the
kid.
local
Pretty
stations.
sure he's either Charlestown or
well,
he's Boston, one
But
of
he
those
was, I know who he is, and has kind of like the buzz cut kind of thing.
Yes, he
going
does
for him.
have
Right.
that buzz
See,
cut. Yes, he does. He's
I-
also
I'm
a successful
adding-
actor, too.
He is, yes.
Okay.
So anyway,
Chris Long.
Chris Long gave, I believe he was the one who gave the quote that of all the networks, Fox News, your audience should appreciate what that photo was about, which is there
Prayer.
because since a lot of people of faith tend to watch Fox News,
Right.
then you should know you should
Okay, Dan,
not have
let's
made
go
a mistake
behind
like
the media.
that.
How does this
So
happen? Because I know
I'm glad you brought that up.
It happens. Some poor
You know what?
production assistant somewhere.
I think this was less of a political kind of thing, or
totally.
less of a
It
Fox
was a
News
human
version.
error. It was a human error.
This happens all the time.
Right, so let's
When there
explain
is
how it
someone,
happens.
So here's how it happens. Usually there is when it comes
Graphic
to
request?
a graphic request from a line producer who says passes it down sometimes to an intern or a PA.
We need an image of the
who
Eagles.
say we need an image of the Eagles. And then there may have been even a second line, image of Eagles protesting, taking a knee or something like
Yeah.
that, probably.
Right.
They go, they find an image, they don't read to find out maybe it wasn't filed correctly or whatever. They grab that thing, they send it to them. That's how it happened. Now, in the old days, before you could just pull it up digitally right there in front of you, you would have to go and grab a tape somewhere and it would be labeled more appropriately. But even mistakes then were made because you have someone who has no clue about context, and it's a name that somebody has, like there's a sports player and a lawyer who have the same name, and all of a sudden you look up and the graphic or the video is of the lawyer when it should have been the sports guy and so forth. So that happens a lot. There's less of what we think the sort of the sinister nature of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's less about that than an honest mistake by someone, a junior person who just but I
doing
thought
what they were told.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
and didn't deliver the exact right imagery. Now,
Exactly.
I'll be honest, Dan, and you and I kid about the 80-20 thing, that you're 20% sports and 80% news
Right.
and real life.
And by the way, that went up to 20, right? Didn't it start
21.
at 10?
I gave you 21.
Did it start at 10?
It did start at 10.
So I've gained 11 points.
Yes, you have.
Oh, my
yes, you
goodness.
have.
And
actually, I might have to give you another point for the Howie Long, Chris
Long.
Long.
This is pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good.
And notice I do not campaign for my 20% knowledge of news, reality, and politics, because I don't.
Well, remember recently, I can't recall what it was, but you shocked me with something.
Well, I shock you on a weekly basis.
On a weekly basis.
Sometimes it's actually newsworthy.
So, you know what? I'm going to give you, I don't know what it was for, but I'm going to give you at least 2 points for recent shocking.
Wasn't it the first national anthem to be played in front of a sports event? That was last week.
But you researched that one,
yes,
so you had it.
Oh, it's something I just came up with.
You came up with.
Oh, yeah.
Twice now you came up with something, and I was shocked that you knew.
And of course now I completely forget what it was.
So did I.
But anyway,
I'll give you 2
points. It
goes
goes back
to
sports knowledge. When you are in the news media business, okay, there's a certain level of knowledge that you should have for both news, weather, and sports.
That sounds like coming up next at 11.
Right. But you should. I mean, you've been surrounded by it. This is your career and this is your life. And, there's certain things that you should know.
You should know.
You should know.
And isn't this what we've been arguing about? While it's wonderful to hire kids straight out of college I love kids.
Right. So I think and give them an opportunity. They'll blow you away with their ability. I say
it's
it all the time.
amazing, and they have a new way of thinking about things that we don't. Faster, better, all of the above.
Right.
But I still, and you and I both agree that in every news organization, you still need institutional workers. You need people who know, who won't make, we hope, won't make these kinds of mistakes. Maybe they will about a recent artist or something, a young artist or something.
Right.
But they understand. You've been around the block long enough that there are certain mistakes you just won't make.
Right.
And we've gotten away from that, of not wanting to have those people in a newsroom because they're too expensive.
It's the 24/7 news cycle,
right.
And it's the rush to get it on fast and get it out there, and we'll apologize later.
Yeah. And that's
rather than getting it right the
first time. And I think it's a major problem, and certainly because, as you pointed out, we've seen it happen, maybe not as often on the nightly newscasts, if you will, but you see a lot of times people tweeting things out, sending it out via social media, and then having to reel it back in.
Yep.
That's the wonderful thing about social media. You can unring the bell for the most part.
There
are some things that
Roseanne had a little issue with that
recently. Yeah. Sometimes unringing the bell, you still hear the dong, dong, dong going long after you've removed it.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
The echo of the
echo of the bell continues long after it has been unrung.
Yes.
But I like that one, actually.
Yeah, we could make a bumper sticker on that.
Echo of the bell. Are you hearing the echo of the bell?
Yeah.
That unringing that took place?
That's right.
But I think
slow down and listen.
Listen to the echo of the bell that was rung.
All right. Anyway,
but anyway, man, that really messed me up. But I think it is important when we think about these kinds of stories, and the general public out there will instantly say, if Fox News makes a mistake like this, we know what was behind it. Or if CNN makes a mistake like that, we know what was behind it.
Because there's got to be a conspiracy about everything.
Exactly.
Actually, Dan,
And you know what? Like a clock is right, a broken clock is right twice a day. It is possible that if you make that claim all the time, you will be right, that there was some sort of hidden agenda behind it. But I think, typically when you see a lot of these kinds of things happen, it is an honest mistake.
Yeah. And I'll give another little behind the media tip. When you are a news anchor and the graphic is over your left shoulder,
right,
and you really can't see it.
You can't.
You can't.
You're not paying attention to that.
But you're going to get the blame because the story came out of your mouth.
You
and
will.
People saw you with that graphic.
It was your graphic.
It was you.
It was floating over your shoulder.
You said so.
You put it there. And it was somebody else's fault.
Which isn't, and by the way, I don't believe in fault and blame. It's really the human element here. I mean, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
And, could it have been prevented? Yes. With some questions and inquiries.
Right.
And it would have, hopefully they would have still made their little deadline, which is immediate. But still, they want to get it right the first time.
Well, I have to look. A hat tip to Fox for reeling this one back in. They were very quick, or relatively quick, in terms of admitting that a mistake had been made, and that in fact they were wrong, that the wrong photo was used. And so I have to give that to them. Whether or not what was really behind it, we have explained now what we think happened. If there was something else, then shame on them. But I have to do, say congrats, and they did the right thing and
Yes, they
admit
did.
it, as opposed to just letting it slide and go on and
Right.
pretending it didn't happen. I thought that was the right move.
I'll tell you what. I think the advances in media and the exposure of the human element have contributed to the admission of a screw up. People are accepting the fact that, oops, I made a mistake. We found it right away. This is crisis management 101.
101, yeah.
We screwed up. My fault.
It's happening more and more.
I am sorry. Please forgive me.
Ooh, those are hard.
We move
words
on.
To say. Yeah, those have been.
I do it all the time, by the way. If you say it
'Cause
enough, it just rolls out of your mouth.
You don't want to sleep on the sofa. That's
Right.
why. So you got to learn how to say that really well.
Yes, dear.
Oh, I think Stephen might have an answer to something. He did some real-time research.
Yes.
And what is that?
So what I have is it originally started. President Andrew Johnson did it once for the Washington Nationals baseball team in the Brooklyn Atlantic.
Oh.
Wow.
This is
Andrew
a-
Johnson is like 18-something.
Yeah, it became more of a regular thing with President Calvin Coolidge.
Oh, we were way
Ah.
off.
It wasn't until Reagan that it became a
Oh.
baseline.
Okay.
Oh,
wow.
interesting.
So
Okay.
the presidential history of sports
That was
teams
great.
being honored at the White House.
There
And
you
there
go.
you go, brought to you by Stephen Helmuth. And
Speaking of Washington, just
Yeah.
for a quick
Oh, yes,
aside.
yes.
Okay, because as you know, I still have 80% sports in my blood.
you do.
The Washington Capitals are the Stanley Cup champions for the first time. And my brother's a big fan, and I want to congratulate the Washington Capitals. And it will be interesting to see, since they're in the neighborhood,
yes.
if they're invited to the White House.
We will see. I do know all of my media friends were posting pictures on, since being from the Washington area.
Right, we're
a lot
excited
of them,
about
they
it.
were very excited about it, posting
Yeah.
a lot of pictures on.
Still the best trophy in sports.
Well,
the Lord
yeah.
Stanley's Cup is the best trophy
because
in
you can actually
sports.
use it as an item to drink from.
Oh, there have been used for many
Oh,
other
yes.
things. You know the tradition, right? So the
Uh,
team has the original cup now, or what is considered to be the original cup now, and every team member gets to spend a day doing whatever
with the
they
cup?
want with the cup.
Oh,
And there are thousands of stories of some pretty amazing things and some pretty gross things that have been done in that cup,
my.
let's just say. But you also know the base of the cup gets changed
Right,
every
I
few
did know
years
that,
because
right.
every member of that team, their name is now engraved
Right,
on
right.
the
I
base
did-
of that
I did
cup.
know that,
Such
yeah.
a cool, that is absolutely the best. You can't, there's no debate that the Lord Stanley Cup is the best trophy in sports.
Lord Stanley is the name of the tool that I use. Stanley tools.
Yes.
So
What does
that's
that
what
have
I
to
call.
do with anything?
Because you said
You can-
Lord Stanley, and
so
that's
you
what I
can
was thinking
engrave it?
about.
I don't
No,
know.
I don't know.
All right.
Anyway, if you like this episode, and if you'd like to do something with the cup, let us know. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter. Have any questions or comments? Let us know at info@littlepartmedia.com. That's info@littlepartmedia.com. It's halftime, ladies and gentlemen. This show is powered by Mack Weldon. It's a premium men's essentials brand. Jimmy is a living, walking example of how comfortable and life can be wonderful with wonderful
Mack Weldon
undergarments. But he's not wearing them, he tells me, today
no.
because it's not rotation day for his
No.
undergarments.
I wore them. I actually tried to. I wore them all day yesterday.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then
glad
I
you
had
said
a
just
second,
all day, not all week.
And then I got sweaty from playing tennis, and then I had to take them off. And now they're in the
TMI.
laundry. Let's just say.
But you had a great experience with
I know a couple
wearing
of good
them,
experiences.
right?
Yeah, no,
Right?
now they're definitely
now that
my
they've been washed.
go-to pair.
Oh, they are.
You know what I mean? When
Okay.
you have choices, you got choices.
When you have choices, make Mack Weldon your
Your
go-to
choice.
pair.
There you go.
Okay, and whatever you're wearing right now, not you, Jimmy, but others out there, Mack Weldon is much better, according to Jimmy and many others. They believe in smart designs, premium fabrics, and simple shopping. It's the winning formula. Mack Weldon will be the most comfortable underwear, socks, shirts, undershirts, hoodies, and sweatpants you've ever placed on your body. So get on board with the people who know. For 20% off your first order, visit MackWeldon.com. Enter promo code CLNS at checkout. This show is also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com. Local news is dead, or is it? not if one station in Pennsylvania has anything to say about it. Welcome to this episode of Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media, so you don't have to go looking for it. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter, and listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Mack Weldon. It's a premium men's essentials brand. For 20% off your first order, visit MackWeldon.com. Enter promo code CLNS at checkout. We're also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com. So this will be a little short segment here, Jimmy. But there's this station in Pennsylvania.
It's not owned by Sinclair Broadcasting.
It is not. It is a public
Shocking
television.
to me.
It is a public. It is a PBS station.
A PBS station.
Yeah.
Your tax dollars at work,
Right.
by the way.
WLVT and WPPT. And I've discussed this in the past, but we've been looking for what is the solution to save local news. I don't think it's dead. I still believe that when people are sitting at home, that they resonate. Things resonate with the local folks. It's not the network news is wonderful, but if you see Joe and Marie on the anchor desk, you get them. They're right there in your community. But the ratings have been sliding now for quite some time, and so how do you fix that? So the solution at this station group in Pennsylvania is to embed reporters in community. Don't just send them out there to cover a story.
They're in bed in the community? What? I don't get it.
So,
What?
where this whole term comes from.
Embedding, yes.
Embedding,
Right.
Well, we know the term goes.
You ever
but
embedded at NBC News? Were you an embedded reporter ever at NBC?
I was actually.
Yeah.
The first Gulf War, I was
Okay.
embedded with a unit, the first expeditionary unit out of South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Camp Lejeune. We trained with them. And then we were supposed to hop on a plane and fly over there to the front lines. And then that's when the ground war broke out and the trip was canceled. But there are others, David Bloom, who unfortunately passed away, lost his life while he was embedded. And others have been embedded as well. It's really just to get you on the inside, to get at the real story, right? What's it like for the Marines or whoever it
Reporter
might be?
participation is what our consultants' friends call it.
Well, I would say maybe not participation. That would mean you pick up a gun. It's reporter observation from the inside, right?
Enough. Right.
And so how can you do that with reporters? So I'll just and this was an interesting article that I found on Pointer. It says, in thinking about public TV and what we have historically done, we've stepped up when other people haven't been able to. We've tried to help the community when others can't. So to us, it became kind of obvious that when it came to local journalism, we need to step up. And again, this is Yanni Greenbaum. He was interviewed by Storybench, which it's part of Northeastern University, and then Pointer Institute was featuring this article. So we came up with this concept, he said, of the PBS 39 Reporting Corps, which is essentially the hiring of 12 new journalists, 10 of whom will be embedded in the local communities that we cover. These journalists will not just be covering the community, they will be part of the community, engaging in the community. So I guess back to what you were saying, this actually is participation a little bit more than just observation. And he said, this is kind of the interesting take on it. We're not just going to focus on traffic or weather or sports or crime and accidents. They particularly feel that local news does a good job of telling who, what, when, where, and why. But where it really fails is, who, what, when, where, but it really fails in the why. So we're going to give you the why. That's the crux of what they're looking for. So that's how they're going to do it, by embedding reporters.
I wish them good luck.
Why, you don't think it's going to work?
No.
Why?
Because I don't think that a reporter is trained to understand the whys of local community. They're going to have to they're going to have to seek out experts on whatever that story is.
The idea is you become the expert by spending so much time with the people who know the why. I mean, that's kind of what it is. But then do you cross the line? Are you then a reporter, or do you become community?
Now, this is also goes to a bigger story.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this discussion recently with my family. What is more important to you news-wise?
Yeah.
What goes on around the world or in your backyard?
And what did they say?
They're around the world.
Really?
Yeah, they don't watch local news.
Yeah, but I think most people care less about what's going on around the world. That's been the problem in getting international coverage, where
Right.
people, why do I care that happened?
Right.
I've been pushing for more of that. People
Right.
tend to care more of what's happening down the street.
Right.
But
And-
your family's more intellectual.
Well, my family is definitely unique. Let's just say
a very
as a matter of
educated,
fact,
intellectual family.
yes, and yes, the family that I'm involved with
Yes.
is a much better way to describe that than my personal
Your
family.
personal family.
Because we have very few people around anymore.
Okay, so just to wrap this up, they're hoping that by doing this, they can develop a model that can be replicated in other stations, and that local journalism will get a viable future, because we've seen that it's sort of been dying off.
I don't think that's going to get ratings up, though.
Well, but you don't know. Everyone's trying for something, and this is just another element.
Okay.
And they also think that by doing this, they might attract a younger audience. Everyone's trying to figure out, how do you get young people to watch local news when, in fact, they get news all day long on their devices. So what can you do that will present some sort of higher value to them? And this is seen as an idea.
Okay.
Okay?
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good
That's
luck.
all you have to say, huh?
Good night.
Good luck
And
and good luck.
Good luck.
Okay.
Now, who is that? Edward R. Murrow.
Thank you very much. If you like this episode,
You have a few
let
of
us
his
know.
awards in your room.
Well, I do have a few. That's right. I dusted them off this morning. Let us know. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag #BehindTheMedia to engage with us on Twitter. Have any questions or comments? You can reach out to us at info@littlepartmedia.com. That's info@littlepartmedia.com. It's the fourth quarter.
I like the fourth quarter.
Are you ready to consume some bites behind the media? For those who can't eat the whole meal, we're serving up just a few little delicious pieces. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
This is Behind the Media. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter, and listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Mack Weldon. It's a premium men's essentials brand. For 20% off your first order, visit MackWeldon.com and enter promo code CLNS at checkout. We're also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com. Okay, Facebook is dead. Were you shocked?
No, in fact, I couldn't believe that they actually had a poll on, young people, Pew Research, by the way, the Pew Research, which is
Yes.
one of the more reputable
Yes, they
research firms and poll. Kids aren't on Facebook.
Right.
Really?
Half of teenagers, only half, use Facebook these days.
We know that. Well, of course, I work with teenagers, so I guess that's the thing. It's if you have them and you're around them, they're not using it.
Yeah, it used to be 71% of teenagers back in 2015 used to use Facebook. That was the dominant platform then. Most of them now are on, ding, 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 which one? Which platform?
Instagram.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. Okay, on to the next one. Who died and made Trump king?
That is one of the most amazing covers of Time magazine I've ever seen. But, if you look at it, first of all, it's scary as hell. Second of all,
So can you describe it?
Well, actually, not only can we describe it,
Yes.
we can describe it because, after all, we're creating a podcast,
Exactly.
which is audio-based. But I took the liberty of actually taking that cover, and we're now talking over it for those who are joining us via video. At least I'm
so you can see
assuming
it.
that our fine director, Steve, has punched it up by now.
He's doing thumbs up.
Of course he
That
has.
means it has been punched
So
up.
there is POTUS looking at the mirror and seeing him in king.
A reflection
of him as the king.
Exactly.
And by the way, king, executioner, judge, jury, the whole 9 yards. Because after all, he can pardon himself.
He can, and that's kind of what has driven a lot of this conversation. Is the interaction between Trump and Twitter and the public has led to this kind of description. Like,
Yes.
does he think he's king?
He certainly is acting that way.
He certainly
and
is.
it also gives the lawyers of our country, the constitutional lawyers, the professors that teach this stuff, another great thing
A great
to talk
nugget.
about. Does he have the power to pardon himself or
Does
not?
he? And I
Let's
wonder-
talk about it for the next week and a half.
And I wonder what LeBron James thinks about this,
Because he is the king.
he is the king. He's also
Good
the
job.
biblical king.
That's right.
King James.
That's right.
As in the King James version of
Right.
the Bible.
Yes.
Always try to throw in a little religion
I like
into
that.
everything.
And I
here.
appreciate it. I respect that about you, by
Thank
the
you
way.
very much. The shocking anti-opioids ad. Shocking. Hammer the hand.
How about driving the car into a dumpster and to get Vicodin? I mean, that's a powerful PSA that's out there.
Yes.
It upset you. It upset me, but it certainly told the story.
And the story is
that Vicodin and opioids we're in crisis, and as you know, being pro-cannabis, and I think I've been on record about that, there is a way to get people off opioids by using this amazing little plant. And it's been proven, and there's scientific research backing this up. So I keep thinking that maybe that they're running this PSA on how dangerous opioids are and what's amazing things people will go to get another fix or a prescription. There should be a following PSA that says, oh, by the way, before you do this, check out cannabis as an option.
Well, I'm sure that's...
9 states have legalized it. 61% of America are in favor of legalizing it. And now I'm on the bandwagon. What can I tell you?
Yeah, well, some people think that bandwagon has a flat tire, but who knows? Well,
yes. No, I understand that too. But you know what? If you go into it open-minded and look at the scientific research, take the propaganda and everything you've known about it for years or thought about it for years, take it out of it and just look at the scientific research that's out there. You know,
this is when he becomes Reverend Jimmy.
That's right.
So you become Reverend Jimmy twice today.
Yeah, but I've got another one that I'm waiting for. This is the last one.
What's
I'm
the
chomping
bite?
at the bit.
Tell me about the bite.
Well, as you know,
yes,
I am a huge sports fan.
Oh, you are?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Used to be a professional at that. Not a fan, but as a sportscaster.
Yeah.
And here in the Boston area, the greatest sports town in America, with 5-time champion New England Patriots, 3-time champion Boston Red Sox, multiple-time Celtics over the years. In fact, the more championships than any other NBA team, I might add, and getting closer to 18 every day.
For Boston.
And the Bruins as well, won in 2010. So there is a powerful troika that's in place in Foxborough.
Ooh, what a big word. Troika.
Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, the GOATs of their specific jobs, the ownership, the coaching, and the quarterback.
Yeah.
And there is a other element called performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs, which for the most part now aren't the anabolic steroids that Lyle Alzado made famous back in the day in the 80s that are so dangerous. These are usually in the form of human growth hormone, which is really designed to get an injured player back on the field faster, to help healing process. Julian Edelman, the wide receiver for the Patriots, has been suspended for 4 games next season for PED use. There are theories, conspiracies about this is the thing that's going to break up the Patriots dynasty and have Brady and Belichick and Kraft at each other's throats.
That's what happened last season.
Yeah, and who fed this to the media?
Yeah, how did that get out?
How did that get out? Was it Reddit? Because someone posted something on Reddit.
That's how it all started.
72 hours ago, and it came true after the media talked to Tom Brady for the first time in the offseason yesterday.
Yeah.
The story broke minutes later. Isn't that a coincidence?
Isn't that something?
Yeah. So is there a conspiracy? Did someone with the initials BB perhaps, or his camp, Ernie Adams, leak this to the...
Look, we have a visit from our producer here today.
That's right. Alex Barth is here. So tell me, the conspiracy.
I just heard you guys talk about this. There's breaking news. The same account just said that there is the same account that knew ahead of time about the Edelman thing said that there is another bombshell coming today. 9.5 out of 10. Twitter's obviously up in arms. People saying Gronkowski got traded, Belichick's retiring.
Or Tom Brady's retired.
They didn't say when. They didn't say how. It could be that. Nobody knows. He just said there's another.
This is that mystery account.
You're teasing us.
They're teasing us. I don't know. I'm trying to plan for coverage later. I don't know what it is.
Wow. Right. Well, by the way, if you're just tuning in or you're wondering who the mystery voice, that's Alex Barth, our producer and social media guru who stepped in and with the breaking news.
Appreciate
with
that.
The breaking
Basically,
news.
you didn't really advance the story, Alex.
No, but he did tease it out. That
yes,
there's more.
It was a very good
there's
tease.
more.
There's going to be more.
It's like an infomercial
because
where
there
we
is
thought
now
you had bought the product. 9.5. So that's seismic. Amazing shift that could happen under the sports landscape here in the Boston area, and you heard it here first.
Giselle is having Robert Kraft's love child.
Well, that wouldn't be a 9.5. After what's been going on nowadays, that'd be like a 2. Okay.
That's it.
Man, this has been another exciting show. Thanks so much for listening. We know that each and every one of you actually enjoyed this show because we can just tell. So share it, like it, and also keep following us on the CLNS Media Network. This show was directed by Steve Helmuth. You heard from our social media guru and producer, Alex Barth. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
And now you have no reason to not know what's behind the media.